Hello, my name is Shawn Farquhar. I'm from Vancouver, Canada. I'm a professional magician. All my life I've been a magician. My father was a magician, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. I was destined to be a magician. My father taught me from a very young age how to see magic and do magic. And he was very cool. Instead of teaching me tricks, he taught me techniques, which allowed me to create my own magic later in life. Passion. Passion's a really important characteristic. I see everybody say, oh, you have to have technique or skill. I think you have to have passion. If you have a passion for what you're doing, all those other things will come. And a lot of people ask me, if you don't study other things, how can you be a good magician? I have an insatiable need to learn. So I learn lots of things, but it's not to improve my magic. Maybe it does, but I just always have to understand why. When I was young, my father bought me books like Popular Mechanics and Popular Science, and they explained how things worked in the world. And my father always took things apart. Even when they weren't broken, he took them apart. And sometimes then they were broken. But then together we would make them work again. And so I think it doesn't need to be, but I think it is definitely a bonus. I remember when I was young seeing Jeff McBride working in Quebec in Canada. And he was doing magic tricks that were very typical. And then he went away to Japan, where he studied martial arts and kabuki theater and makeup and everything to do with the Japanese culture. And when he came back, he's the Jeff McBride we know today. If he hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't know his name, just because he, like many magicians, were doing typical standard, good, but typical standard. And because he had a passion to learn other things and he spent the time, he became very unique. In my case, I try to understand everything. I want to understand technology. Right now I'm learning how to program lasers, and I'm learning to do calligraphy just because I want to learn something. I'm always learning. In the last few years, I've made a challenge to myself. I give something up every year that I love, and I don't do it for a whole year. And I try to do something new for a whole year. Sometimes the things I do for a year become a passion and I love them forever. And sometimes I can't wait until the end of the year, so I never have to do it again. But it gives me a commitment and a passion, and it helps me become who I am today. Not to an effect, it's to my life. Perfect example are things like, for 1 year, I didn't drink soda. No Coke, no Pepsi, nothing that was carbonated, 1 full year. And for a person who drinks a lot of soda, it was incredibly difficult. But at the end of the year, I didn't drink it for another 3 years. And then it was just once in a while. And now it's not important to me. I didn't choose magic. Magic chose me. I had no choice. It's my earliest memories. And even in school, when they had the vocational class where people came in and talked about how to be a lawyer, how to be a fireman or a policeman, I went room to room trying to find the magician to ask him questions. I just thought it was a job, that you could be a magician. And no, I didn't choose magic. Magic chose me. She has been my mistress forever. If it's all you think about and all you can consider in your life, then you have to do it. When you wake up in the morning, if that's all you think about, then when you go to sleep, it's all you should do. I have always followed my passion, always made every day positive. I try to be as positive a person as possible. And with that comes great success. Without that, you could lose everything. And so I work very hard to make sure I stay positive, and I tell everybody else, if you want it, you can do it. How do I work it? I have interesting process, and it changes. It depends on the effect. Some effects write themselves, and some I work on for years. Some are inspired because I saw somebody do something, and I thought they were going to do something else. And some are just because I don't sleep much. And because of lack of sleep, weird thoughts come into my head. And so each one is completely unique. Some effects I've been performing for years, and I'm still working on them, improving and changing them, trying to find a better way to fix a small little discrepancy that maybe makes it a little weaker for me. And most of my magic, I think, is very powerful, but it can be more powerful. Everything can be improved. I don't think I have anything that can't be improved. When I was young, I had the opportunity to be taught, mentored by a man named Carl Hemian. And Carl and Lottie were very famous. They performed all over the world doing a bird act. And he was best friends with a man named Ed Keener. Ed Keener worked 25 years in La Scala in Spain and Madrid and performed a beautiful act. And the two of them together were best friends. And when they went on vacation, they went to magic conventions. And once in a while, they would see something they loved. And when they saw it, they didn't want everybody else to know they loved it. Because if they said, oh, that's a great trick, every magician would buy it. And then they weren't so unique. So they had a code word They called it a bed jumper. They go, oh, that one's a bed jumper. And it wasn't until Carl passed that I read in his notes why. It was because Carl and Ed Keener would sit on a bed in a hotel room doing the tricks. And when they liked something, they'd bounce up and down on the bed because it was so exciting. Oh, that's a good trick. So they called it a bed jumper. It became my lecture notes. It became their secret code that they love things. And when I put out my first set of notes to share with the magic community, I called it bed jumpers in honor of them, hoping that maybe one or two of the tricks in my book, Ed and Carl would have jumped up and down on a bed. When I was young, I didn't share. My father didn't call himself a magician. He called himself the keeper of secrets. And I love this title because secrets are what we're about. But we have to share the secrets or they die. My father never shared anything. And he told me never to share. And I didn't. I kept to my word while my father was alive. I didn't share. It wasn't until my father passed that I did my first lectures. And I learned that when I shared, I learned. Every time I taught, I learned. I learned why I did things. I had to look inside, not just here's how I do it. Why did I do it? And what makes it stronger? And then people would ask me questions and I had to defend my position. And most times I won. Sometimes when I was wrong, I rethought my magic and my magic became better. And so by sharing, I learned, I grew, and I kept my secrets alive so that other generations will be able to do what I do. Do you know, a lot of people, when they see my lectures or they meet me in person, always say things like, it's very nice the way you speak of your mentors and the people that came before you. I said, this isn't nice, this is respect. This is what we should all do. It's very important that you show respect and acknowledge the people that came before you. We stand on the shoulders of giants. I had so many great teachers. My father first and foremost, but people like Jerry Andrus, Carl Hemian, John Gilliland, Tony Eng. All of these men are only names to you, but to me, they're my heart, they're my life. They shared with me their secrets and they spent hours with a young boy who couldn't afford money. They gave me their time. And in return, I try to do the same thing. It honors them and it keeps their memory alive, which keeps them alive and it keeps their magic alive. And even if it's somebody, Tommy Wonder, I only met a few times, but the things he gave me were so special that whenever I see somebody doing something of Tommy's, I talk about him and I try to explain how special he was in the short time I knew him. I've done the same with Divernon and so many magicians. Doug Henning, who took me for a lunch, and I ate Chinese food sitting next to him. Excited young man. I was so excited, I forgot to take my camera out and take a picture. It wasn't until he left I went, oh no. But for me, it didn't matter about the photo. It meant that we spent time together. He encouraged my magic. He wrote me a letter later saying how nice it was to meet me. These are the gestures of giants, and it's important that we keep them alive. If all you do is take their magic and you do it and you never explain where it came from, I think you're stealing. Even though they gave it, I still feel you're stealing. You don't have to in a performance tell people, but if you're with magicians, you should say, this is from the creation of, or it was inspired by, or this just helped me go in another direction. And as long as we keep saying their names, they're never dead. A lot of people ask me about competitions and why I do so many of them. I won more than 42 international awards, and not one of them was for ego, not one. I am a procrastinator. I am busy all the time. I'm working, and it's hard to keep my focus. I have ADHD, I'm mildly dyslexic, I'm way off the spectrum. I am so sad, it's sad. And so I needed goals. I needed to set a timeline, and there had to be a consequence. So when I told people I'm going in a contest, this made a consequence. If I showed up at the contest unprepared, then I looked stupid, I lost the contest, and it was bad for me. And so by setting these goals and timelines, my magic grew. And when people saw me and I won, I got better. I got more bookings, I got more work. And when I didn't win, I learned why I didn't win. I read judges' forms, I learned what the judges liked, I listened to the audience, I watched the old videotapes, VHS, and I studied why I won and why I lost. The winning was never as good as the losing. When I lost, I learned why I lost, and that made me better. And even when I went to FISM, I didn't go to win. I went to see where I stood in the world. I had been working for a very long time on cruise ships and not around magicians. And I'd gone and performed at the PCM, at the IBM, and the SAM, and I won their awards. So I knew I was good in America, North America. But I didn't know where I stood on the world stage. And so I went to Holland, and I took second prize. And I was stunned. It was like, wow. And people like Tommy Wonder came to talk to me going, I love your ideas. How did you make the cups? I said, oh, I made them myself. What? We became friends because of this. I like to make stuff too. Me too. Well, do you actually lathe? I said, yeah, I had to learn to lathe to make the cup. Wow. I said, everything I learned to make. And so each step of the contest pushed me to another level. I went back to compete again just because I felt I could do better than I did. And I took another second, but I also entered stage and I took a second in that. And I went, I think I can do better. And I tried again. And each one was a big progression. I had to go back and compete at the North American Championships. I didn't win the North American Championships, but when I competed against the same person, I won in the finals because I had another year to practice, to get it stronger and better, and I used it to get better. I don't have a process in how I create the premise, and I do it all the time. Each year in April, I go to the 4F convention, which is the top sleight of hand artists in the world by invitation only, and every year it's a 4-day convention. I get to perform on the last day. And on the first day, I take $20 and I go to the Target department store in Batavia, New York, and I buy a bunch of stuff. And I make up a new magic trick. And I rehearse it for the 4 days, and then I perform it in front of the best magicians in the world. And I fool a lot of them. And many of the ideas have become commercial successes. One is my Sheer Luck comedy book test. The year David Stone was the guest of honor, I bought a book because I wanted a lottery ticket out of it. But the lottery ticket didn't work for what I wanted, so I bought a second book, and the idea for the book test came about. And I will look at something and see what's good about a magic trick and what's bad, and then find a way to improve it. Because I was taught technique when I was young, I can see 10 different techniques to use. The book test, I had more than 10 methods, and I picked one that was great and used it. But when I went on Fulas, I took a different method than the one I use all the time, because I was afraid maybe Teller had bought the book test and he would know. So I used another method. Coming up with a method is the easiest part. I can come up with, you give me a plot, I will give you a method. Finding a unique plot is very difficult. And when you find it, it has to be interesting to the audience. And so listen to what audiences say. And when you do performances, listen to how they describe the other magician they've seen in the past, because you know it won't be accurate. It'll be some wild, outlandish, crazy thing. And then see if you can find out a method to make that trick work, because they will give you the best all the time. My first book go-to is Tarbell Course of Magic. I read it all the time. It's my center books. And from the center books of Tarbell, I go to the Books of Wonder by Tommy Wonder. They sit right next to it. And next to it is a book called Whack to the Side of Your Head. No magic. It's a book on creativity and creative exercises to become better. And if you ever watch a video of me on YouTube, I'm always with the back, my bookcases behind my back. If you look over my shoulder, you'll see the Tommy Wonder books, you'll see the Tarbell books. Next to it, you'll see several books by John Rockenbaumer. I have a small little group called College. I have resources, but I go to really weird books that you wouldn't know, like Whack to the Side of the Head. And books by Theo Anneman, a book I've been going page by page through. Nothing is more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, but every one of us is inspiring me to create new magic. My father taught me thousands of things, and he made each one of them with a joke. And he said, be entertaining and funny. He made it a joke by saying, more funny, more money, more yucks, more bucks. If they're laughing, they're not looking at your hands. And this lesson alone is so powerful. I watch my favorite magicians who use comedy and laughter as misdirection. People like Mac King and David Williamson. These are geniuses in using comedy as the misdirection. If you watch them, the laughs are at just the right moments. And my father taught me this very young. If you make them laugh, they'll love you more. And even if you make a mistake, they'll love you more. And so probably one of the best lessons ever was find the humor in yourself, convey it to the audience, and think more funny, more money, more yucks, more bucks. Thank you for inviting me to be interviewed.
Bye.
Hasta luego. Fácil.